so, overall, very, very strong. You could do those things if you feel you want to be in the service of brevity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Anything else? Karolina, you're quiet.
If you're talking to me, I want to give space to others.
Okay.
Perfect. You had your hand up.
Oh, somebody had their hand up? Oh,
Karolina.
Franz.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see that. You're kind of dark there. You're in a bit in the shade.
You're muted.
You muted.
Franz, you're muted.
I saw Karolina's hand, so I thought maybe she wanted to add something before.
Yeah.
Or was it just a wink?
Yeah, it was like, I like that.
Ah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah.
So this in XR, I like.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
But this would mean, I don't know.
I don't know. That's open to interpretation.
Yeah. Well, yes, I think quite, pure technically, this video could easily get down by because of course there's a lot of small breaks in the talk, in the introduction of the guidance of the functionalities. So that try to compress it would also save a couple of minutes, I think, or at least a minute. Yeah, creating.
You're saying there's pauses between the slides, or just it didn't
Between the slides and the talk.
Okay.
And I think that maybe. Well, I have to see it again. It's not easy to remember exactly the slides now. Yeah. Well, that's for now my feedback.
Okay, great. And this is, I'm putting in the link to the slide deck. So you can go in there. In fact, you can even download, make a copy and edit it, make an edited copy if you've got ideas to.
Great.
I think you can save a copy, so. Be glad to get any sort of feedback or variations. Do you think it would be helpful for what you're doing, Franz? Like when you try to introduce the empathy circle, let's say they're in Norway, or
yes, we had a local meeting yesterday, and there were approximately 20 XR members present, and I launched it as a part of the regenerative introduction of the meeting, and we divided ourselves up in 5 groups approximately. And since it was very, very new, we gave ourselves just one round based on 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because we needed to have just 2 hours of meeting, and we just have to compress it just to give people a taste of the technique and the experience of it.
How long did that take?
Sorry?
How long did it take altogether to present that and have a little taste?
Yeah, it would have been approximately half an hour, 40 minutes maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So in my group, we didn't go very much into the experience of it, but talk with somebody afterwards because we have a fit agenda of the meeting, and I had wonderful feedbacks. Even if there was someone, of course, that thought there were a lack of time, or but. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And those who liked it, they gave wonderful feedbacks, and yeah.
Were you able to document any of that, or it'd be great to have some kind of a report that we could share with others? If you can document it, write it up, or even record anything to
Yeah.
Is it in Norwegian? I guess they- doing it in Norwegian, right? Is
Yeah, we do.
uh-huh.
There's a subtitle work is needed. Yes.
But you can present that for all the other XR in Norway. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. We have a little short time now because there's coming up a very important event on the 12th of August in south of Norway about the council and regional elections. That's happening going on for a week, and it would be wonderful to have a tent there and invite the politicians to have this talk. But the time is too short and to get ready. Yeah, the stands are booked 1 year in advance, and
How many circles did you have? How many people per?
Approximately 5.
5 circles. Okay.
Yeah.
Did people stay in the practice? Because one thing I've found is, when we have larger group and we don't have a facilitator at each circle, the people just start talking. They don't kind of keep in the practice. They just start talking with each other, and they don't actually so that it seems to be really helpful to have a facilitator in the circle that keeps everybody on track.
Well, exactly. We decided just to follow the clock and speaker, listener, and then just follow the sun. Yes, I didn't, since I was involved in one group, I couldn't manage to just see how the other groups were facilitating too. Mm-hmm. So this was just the first introduction, first taste of it. And I think next time I will be more as a facilitator for all the groups.
Yeah.
Go around and just, have a feeling on how it goes.
Karolina?
Can you invite your colleagues, friends to our meeting online so they can practice and become facilitators?
I tried.
Oh.
I tried, but it's not easy. It's there's a certain culture of not showing their faces on the screen.
Oh, uh-huh.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we can decide that we do not record that.
Yeah, I know. Well, you just have to try to mature it a little bit. Give it time.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill?
I just wanted to endorse your Franz's adjustment, because I did participate with Lou Zweier as one of the people in the Empathy tent, and he does large groups, full day trainings of this, and that's exactly what he did. He kind of would move around and supervise the groups. It worked very well. He could even drop in and role model where he needs to. So I just think that that's a fruitful direction to go.
Yeah, well, there's a little opportunity, little space opening in this political week, and because they're giving us an open scene, a stage in a beautiful little green area that we're going to have the XR talk, and it's possible that we could have that space available for approximately half an hour, 40 minutes for a couple of other days. And, But, it's so fresh, this thing, and not sure if it's managed to get it. Would be great, but yes, Karolina.
Another question, do you see anybody who is particularly interested in it, especially if he or she is a leader or somebody, kind of coordinator, or somebody of, so to speak, higher rank in your group, and other people kind of look at this person? So if this person would be interested, it might help you.
Yeah, that's unfortunately they have the opposite challenge. Which the leader who's who one of the initiative takers of the XR in Norway wasn't that. But we have our challenges in many different levels
Okay.
with that person, so we'll see.
Hey, Bill.
Okay. Caroline, she has it. I'll go after
Oh.
Caroline.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
This is really such good timing for me, because I put forward to the group in an email that I would like for our next meeting, which will be, I'm not sure if it's definitely end of August. It's a few weeks time. And so first of all, what I can feel, so there's a man and a woman who set up the group. And actually the woman is an engineer, and she's actually very logical. And it's been so interesting to observe that for me to put forward, even the word empathy, there's an issue with that. They're seeing it as like a nappy thing,
Yeah.
And she, it's interesting, the man is actually more kind of feminine energy than the woman. And I can feel she has got massive resistance to giving space to empathy. And it's just enabled me to actually see sometimes, for women particularly, we're really engendered to be the caregivers and often give a lot of space and listening and time to other people. And then people who are these organizers, and you offer them something which is actually going to support them and give them a space to be heard, I can see it's pressing people's buttons. You're actually offering something which is going to support them. And a lot of people haven't actually really received much support. So it's like slowly filtering in as an idea, and there's quite a lot of emotional resistance to get through to even. So, Franz, dude, you got it in there straight off. Well done.
Well, I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to.
No, it's
really push it, and to really just say, because our meetings as well are about 2 hours long. Yeah. And I was saying, I'll, that's going to take like half an hour. Yeah. And then I could feel the resistance. And then I thought, I'll introduce something else. And I'll just, actually on our webpage, we have a regeneration section. And Edwin, if we do a video, I can then insert that and then put a Zoom call link. So for people in the group who are interested, I thought rather than feeling their resistance and asking for like half an hour and, they're not into it, that actually I do it on the website with a link and an introduction. And then people from the group who want to join, we can do like this as an online regular weekly thing, for our individual group.
Yeah, Franz?
If we can, in a certain way, try to be, decide maybe a certain topic, and have this session, maybe 2 rounds, and just stream it online. So people can see it without engaging. They can just observe and be inspired.
Yeah, and know what it is.
Yeah. So, you're building a certain trust in a way that they don't have to, put their face there but, slowly just getting them in.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that? Like, how would that, like, what would be a topic, how to...
It's going to be, I think we from the start, how I got inspired was, of course, the regenerative culture of XR, and using and try to use the XR as a frame. The values and principles of XR and regenerative culture. Yeah.
Karolina?
I'm thinking about the topic, for example, how it happened to you that you got involved in XR.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking about the climate.
So it will be kind of 2 things. One, we show our members of our movement how it works. And another thing, somebody who is not XR can see that and find, oh, those are people with whom I want to join, to connect. So there are two things we can achieve this way.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So a couple things. So as a nuanced thing, like when you have that open space, what I see is a tactic for XR. In other words, you're trying to build the support of the populace at large. Yet what you're also doing is telling people what to do. I mean, anybody does that. It's not a criticism. It's just what you have to. And you're also disrupting their lives. So what I would suggest to build that constituency so people would know about that is like you have your speech at the open space and you just need like you or just one or two people say, what do you feel about climate change? Let us listen to you. And then practice that with the population coming in. Two things happen. One, you're proactively engaging with the population. You're doing something they don't expect because they expect to be talked at or yelled at or told what to do. Now they're being asked, and not only that, they're being reflected. And I think that that would also inspire other XR people to take part because it's really creating that culture of empathy. It's right there, and it's experiential. So I would just think that that might be a nuanced way to kind of get the populace on your side, and also an innovative PR tactic to engage with them and also build constituency for its effectiveness as a political tool.
Yeah.
Just to reflect, are you saying that you create an event where you listen to to passerbyers about climate change?
Well, you could do that. I mean, depending upon, but what I hear, Franz, is that there's limited time and interest in the midst of things, and things are going fast. So in any capacity, you could even have like the main, like if you were going to say, okay, XR, let's create an event over this, I hear that there's kind of pushback on that.
Okay,
so there's not I'm sorry, go ahead, Franz. What do you want to say?
Try to reflect what you're trying to say. So,
Sure.
for example, we have this space during this political week, and after the TED Talk, if there is a time, or because we're going to be there for 3 full days, so there's plenty of time, especially within the XR group, to practice this thing. So I will definitely, use that space to, try to put it in practice. Definitely.
Sure. I'm just saying that you could do it in a very small scale if you want, and ongoing. And I think that that's a good way to build support, both within the public and within XR. That's it.
Okay. Karolina had a hand up.
Maybe first, Caroline.
I'm not sorry, Caroline. You're so dark there. I'm not seeing. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, Karolina was next.
Okay. Go ahead, Karolina. It sounds like you're next.
Okay. Okay. So I had some problem with understanding Bill fully, but I'm not sure if I'm repeating his idea or I have another one. What if you will discuss the problem of disrupting people during our civil disobedience? If some members of XR discuss together that this is the problem, we don't know what to do, how to deal with it. I'm not talking about technical things. I'm talking about emotions that we experience, feelings we experience during such situations. We feel sorry, but we feel we need to do that. And that sort of things happen to us. And we are under attack of frustrated people and so on and so on. Why we do that? If we organize such a meeting, I'm thinking now about organizing such thing in Polish. And we record this sort of discussion, it might be also helpful for public. If we publish that, it might be helpful for others to understand what's going on. What do you think about it?
Or maybe I could reflect it, what you're saying. So you're saying that to hold an event where you say, let us discuss how you feel about the disruption. So you're sort of holding
among XR members. I'm not talking.
Okay.
I'm talking about recording the practice with such a topic.
Yeah.
Is it not? I have this feeling that I'm hard to understand.
Okay, let me kind of reflect. So you're saying that what I'm hearing is with XR members hold like a online perhaps or an in-person empathy.
Online. I think online.
Online. So online, I'm kind of writing this down here, online empathy cafe. And the topic is, let us discuss how you feel about disrupting people.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that it would be helpful with XR, but it would even be more helpful if you had members of the public discussing with XR. And it shows XR being flexible and inclusive and starting to build that culture that you are, that you talk, saying, hey, so.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so I just wrote down here. So it sounds like we have the idea right so far is hold some online empathy cafes, have XR members, and there we have two topics. One is let us discuss how you feel about disrupting people's lives, and then the other topic so far was what got you interested in XR, and then kind of a third sort of event is bringing in XR members and the public, and then talking about how do you feel about the disruptions? Is that?
Yeah.
Bill? Okay. I'm just making notes of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually just going to go back to the other point that was also very helpful for me, that you discussed about how in other things that you've seen, and Bill, you said about the guy who does the big groups, how he drops in and like oversees and facilitates and listens to each group. So that's giving me some good, pointers as to how to facilitate doing the meeting. So I appreciate that. That feels like a really good way to kind of really make sure that the whole room and the individual groups stay engaged and not start talking, like Edwin said. So thank you.
So it's kind of like the logistics of hosting an in-person empathy cafe. What are sort of the logistics of that, and how do you set it up, and sort of having some guidelines for that? I think is that sort of, Caroline, what you're meaning?
Oh, well, actually, Franz is inspiring me to just maintain, that I want to do it in the group physically with people. So, because that was what I felt was actually really necessary to engage the people that come to the meeting and to give them an experience of that. So I just feel what you've shared from your experiences, Franz, and then, the rest of you obviously have experience of being where they're holding other groups. Yeah, I mean, if you're facilitating a cafe, then you can do it in the same format that you do, right, Edwin? One person is a facilitator and the others take turns. It's not difficult to manage.
Yeah, with Franz, is what Lou has done is who does the cafes, in his community, is he's built up a team of facilitators. So he kind of like found the people who are most interested in the practice and who are also good at it. And he got like 7 or 8, I think, or even 12 people, kind of built a team so that he can kind of rely on them to, when they hold the cafe locally, that there's people who can do the facilitation. So you can there's kind of asking people if they'd like to become, help facilitate.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that would be Norwegian, but I think having maybe a little more global ambitions, like now we have a couple of continents and then 3-4 countries, chatting, talking, and practicing this technique together. And I was thinking about let's, for example, I can just, because it's funny that you're just mentioning that, but the online cafe, because when I launched that idea some time ago, which is called this, I'm using the Meet application of Google, which is a very open video connecting channel. So people are just, this is open for everyone. It doesn't have to log in or anything. It's just public. And yeah. So and I launched that idea of having that open constantly 24/7 and decide and say that, XR members in Norway every day between 8:30 or 9 in the morning or in the evening, you have open cafe, and everyone who would like to, you can drop in and have a chat and just look at each other and talk. And they can drop out anytime and drop in, drop out, like you're going in a physical cafe. Yeah, but there hasn't been any much response in the last week. It was just a week ago I launched it. And but it could work like part of Empathy Circle Cafe globally.
Yeah, Caroline.
Yeah, see, we've had 3 meetings, and in the first 2, they were in the town hall, and they were like really. One was like a doctor and a scientist, and they were presenting the XR facts, and they've been with XR, from the beginning, and so they were delivering the facts to people. That was the first open meeting. The very first meeting was just like anybody in the town who wants to join XR, so that there were no members for the local group. So the first one was all people, new people, just coming to the very first time to an Extinction Rebellion meeting in our town. The next meeting then was to say, okay, these people were interested, and there was then a core group of who is the XR Chesham group. So then on the third meeting, obviously, because really nobody knows each other at all. So on the third meeting, then the ones of us who said we're interested in regen and well-being, then we also had a new venue that was much softer and more accessible and different lighting, and didn't sort of feel like it was a council chamber. It was like a more free space, so people felt more relaxed. So then at that one woman, then she said, okay, so we're just, going to move around the room, and then you choose a few people and you just say hello, whichever way you'd like, just to actually have some human connection. This is the thing, because otherwise people are kind of sitting there with whatever emotions they're coming with. And obviously it's also an massively emotive subject, and so just to make some connection between people, and very, very simply. And like for a lot of people, unless you're used to festivals and, kind of much more directly interactive dance or contact improv and stuff like that, people, and English people especially, it takes them to, they need it to be shifted, the situation shifted, like to give permission, like it's okay, just, connect with someone. So I can see how knowing what the kind of environment of people coming to the group physically, there is a lot of hesitation of actually kind of connecting a little bit more, and because people don't even really know each other. You see, that idea of the cafe is beautiful, and that drop-in. But people feel vulnerable to even say like, hey, I'd like to, connect with you, make a friend with you and talk to you. And that's the thing, that's the very emotional thing, actually, that people have to feel okay with in themselves. Like, I'm going to be vulnerable enough to actually say, oh yeah, I would really like to be able to talk to other people about how I feel.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karolina.
You might be right. I'm thinking about it. Actually, I was in a situation when I joined the group, I already knew two people in this group for quite long from different organizations. So it was easy for me to trust the group. You are right that when people don't know each other, it's very difficult. But another thing is to put them in even very simple action in next week or two. I think this is a very important thing. It's maybe not about empathy circle, but it's kind of gives people connection. If they do something very simple, kind of leafleting, you call it?
Yeah.
Leafleting or something like that. So it helps a lot because this is the moment when they feel engaged. But empathy circle, yeah, we're thinking about kind of organizing weekends together, integration, learning something, and this is the time for empathy circle, for example.
Well, I attended our, the last meeting of the San Francisco XR group, and if you don't know anyone, it felt kind of awkward. I didn't know anybody there, and then they had a break, and then there was a person sitting next to me, so I just started talking to him and just kind of doing actually some empathic listening with him. And he was there because his sister was one of the organizers. And then I just started listening to him and, actually doing some empathic listening with him. And he started sharing that, he was kind of feeling depressed. He was trying to find meaning in his life, like what to work on. He's just doing sort of odd jobs and not very meaningful. And then, but I just listened to him, and during the break and afterwards, when we were leaving, he said, it was really a pleasure. I mean, he was just very grateful he just really mentioned it. He was just grateful to have had someone that listened, because I was listening to like real concerns and real pain he was having in his life. So I think something like that at the beginning of a meeting where you can talk about, real things, make some real connections, and you've got a structure to bring people together could be, very helpful.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, I'm sorry.
You had your hand up, Karolina. So.
Actually, there is the whole structure of first a meeting on kind of onboarding to XR, and there is a lot of talks with each other involved in this meeting to let people kind of connect to each other. They discuss few things in smaller circles, so it's good. But yeah, empathy circle might be used for it from the very beginning. So from the very beginning you start to use this. Now I realize that this is a good idea. So from the very beginning, people learn that we talk in our groups this way.
Mm.
So it might be interesting. Now it came to me.
Yeah, I love that. Like as a conscious, intention, we listen to each other with empathy.
Yeah, and from the very beginning, people learn different behavior.
Yeah.
So to have opportunity to speak to you, I have to listen to you first, to hear you. And, in this introduction meeting, there are smaller circles where people discuss how they learn about XR, what they think about climate crisis, and so on and so on. And if they do that in this mode, with this method, even shortly, it kind of teaches them that, okay, in this community, in this group, we try to be more empathic to each other. We create different type of community.
Yeah.
So
it takes it takes work to really get this implemented from scratch. So there's barriers. It's like, how do we overcome those? So the one thing I was hearing is maybe we could hold an empathy cafe online, set a time and date for it for XR members. And it's, the first one is just what got you interested in Extinction Rebellion, just to model it and record it is one idea, is sort of a starting point. Like, just find a time and date, maybe even maybe use this time even, or I don't know. So is that?
Let's do that.
Okay. How are we on that? Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you? Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
Bill. You're
Oh,
first.
let's see. Oh, okay. I'm quick on the finger. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm in the beginnings of sort of like a cafe type of thing. I've started a Facebook page called the Empathic Listening Challenge, and the idea is to listen to people and to pass it on. So I'm to set up a Zoom room. I'm going to start by just saying, hey, I'm going to be available at this time, from 7:15 Pacific time to 7:30 or something. And if you want to be listened to, I'll listen to you and I'll demonstrate how this is done. And then we'll see what happens with that. But that is ripe for expansion if it seems to work and fit in, where people just, because they had like the ice bucket challenge. I don't know in Europe if people getting ice down there, or young people today, the Tide Pod challenge, where poor young people are like, this is better than that, but somehow I don't understand. It hasn't caught on. And I got like little stress balls that people can pass on and tell the story of the stress ball as it goes on. So it's pretty ambitious. I'm starting, it's just in the beginnings, and I'll let you know as we go on with these meetings where it is. But that could, number one, be a resource where you say, oh, you want to see what this is like? Try, check this out. Or if it fits in, then we can expand on the challenge if that seems to work for people. And then we can combine, on that, because it's not just my thing. So just an idea. That's all. Thanks.
That's great.
Okay. I did want to get, so if we do an empathy cafe for Extinction Rebellion, one would be a time to, I just want to be sure we sort of capture this and get it sort of locked down first. We have our Saturday group. Do we use that time, or do we create a whole separate meeting? Like one idea is in 2 weeks, we could use this time slot to hold that cafe. And then we, create an event for it and, try to publicize it on the different XR groups.
Yeah, I personally like this slot.
Okay, this time slot.
I'm busy on the Saturday one.
It's what?
I'm busier on the Saturday generally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what does everyone think about that? Or
I'm flexible.
Okay.
Yeah. For now, it's good for me. Yeah.
Okay. In 2 weeks, that gives us 2 weeks to promote it and to create an event, and I can create an event. Oh, Karolina, just want to be sure how you feel about it.
I'm okay.
Okay, so we have in 2 weeks we hold an empathy cafe specifically for XR members, and the topic is how did you get interested in XR, and we record it, and everybody here can be, if we have more people, everyone here can be a facilitator in one of the groups, in one of the circles. It's a cafe, then we have breakout groups. Yeah, Karolina?
Just for, to be clear, on what day? On Saturday?
No, it would be a Friday in 2 weeks at the exact same time as this.
Okay.
That's the 16th.
Okay.
And then everyone will kind of help promote it. I'll create the event. I can make everybody an administrator to it. And, you can also then, try to post it to different XR groups and, kind of spread the word.
Okay.
Okay, so we got that locked down. Then I'll just do that, afterwards, kind of the details. And I think, do I have everybody's email?
Got mine.
Yeah. Franz, can you put your email and Caroline in there, just so that in the chat window, so we'd be sure. It's the kind of email, it might be easier than.
I'll get it. I haven't got the chat option now because it went funny. But
Okay.
I'll get it to you. Yeah.
So I'll put mine there, Edwin Rutsch. So mine's just Edwin, RUTSCH @gmail.com.
But I'm afraid Caroline will not see your email as well.
Yeah, if you choose everyone.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I'll
I can message you. I'll DM you on Facebook, okay?
Okay, and also we have that event, right? We have our I just sent a message to everyone, so we can put the announcement there, and I'll put my email. So I guess actually we have that. This is just sort of a backup. It's good to have email.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's great. That seems like a good step. I did want to move on to the the topic of implementing XR. This is just sort of a brainstorm, and we've got this document here. And I thought we could just go down the list and just sort of expand on it. If you're able to write in the document, you can make any sort of notes. Yeah, Karolina?
Again, something is wrong with the link.
It's not working. Well, I can add this is a kind of shortened version. See, somebody's there, or maybe it's me. I'm in there twice. Or maybe it's not shared. Let me double check. Did I share it? Anyone can edit? Yeah.
Implementation, XR.
Oh, let me actually share it here to start with. So this was just the beginning of a document, and I thought maybe you could turn it into a slideshow eventually and then make a video of it just to kind of share ideas with others. So what are ways that of implementing empathy circles in XR? Like what kind of situations and scenarios? So the first one, and I just maybe read the title, what the title is, and we can just add any sort of ideas. So and maybe discuss it and just sort of flesh it out. So one thing is activist practice in advance of an event. So we use the empathy circle for community building, for building trust and grounding the practice. So it's sort of what you're trying to do, Franz, right? With your in the meeting, you're trying to bring it in, and then it's before the event, you're trying to get people to sort of practice it, right? That's kind of one sort of scenario.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, how? It's like, right, yeah, how to do that. And there's blocks to it too, right? And there's all kinds of blocks that people don't know what it is.
Can I speak?
What?
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead. Just brainstorm. We just brainstorm, just throw out ideas.
This is like observational, so within the group and obviously in our culture, we are all functioning through these absorbed, modes of behavior and patterns of behavior, which in our recent history, male and female roles have been polarized. So what I'm seeing, is actually, people who are unconscious to having shut down from their wounds to listen to a woman or to listen to a man. Do you know what I mean? That's their internal resistance. So this actually brings an opportunity to actually start to heal, quite significantly, even just to like we said in the last group, to offer a safe space where the structure is absolutely about listening and speaking and reflecting with kindness and with empathy, that is really going to help, that can really heal that masculine feminine divide. And what I'm seeing in my group actually is that there's the hostility in a sense is because empathy is seen even subconsciously as like it's a feminine energy, it's a feminine action, and so we need more of that. And not everybody is ready to even get into that space where they're allowing their own inner feminine, nurturing, caring, empathic self to develop. You know, they don't want to receive that necessarily, or they've not yet had an opportunity, really. You know, a lot of people live in situations, you know, where they're treated pretty badly. There's a lot of abuse. You know, the language that people speak to each other is pretty shitty, you know. So actually it's quite a revolutionary thing to say, hey, this is a safe space. And, you know, the communication that happens here is going to be kind, you know.
So would this be it? There's sort of blocks to this. People are shut down. Empathy circles help with healing in a safe space, can heal the divides. Empathy seen as a feminine action, which some people don't like, I guess. And anybody can write into this document, which people, distrust, or I don't know. And people are not.
Is only just starting to have a voice and a space in our society, you know, like for men and women. It's really important for all of us to be in touch and to have empathy for ourselves and for others, so that we can come together and actually, you know, start to listen and communicate, and we're not just all triggered by each other.
I see you, Karolina.
Well, actually, I faced the situation when the group feminists in Poland actually doesn't want to participate in it. Girls who are feminists kind of feel like it's empathizing is giving space to oppressors.
Yeah.
So
hurt and angry. Yeah. I was saying feminine, not feminist.
Oh yeah, I understand, but you know, well, it's probably a part of dark shadow of empathy. Am I right, Edwin?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. That's a really interesting comment.
I was just muting because the typing, I don't want to disturb it with the typing sound.
Yeah, but I asked you probably couldn't focus on two things in one time. I said that it might be a dark side of the empathy.
So you're saying that the feminists do not want to take part because they feel like they're giving space to the dominators, is what I was hearing.
Or even oppressors.
Or oppressors, that was the word. Anybody can write in here if you feel like you have space to.
I was thinking, imagine if you introduced empathy to Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like,
I'm not listening to any Mexicans.
He might actually be very good at it. You don't know.
And another thing, I see the lack of people of different gender and sexual orientation.
Where?
Place for them. Well, we talk about giving space to people who feel shut down, and it's not clear what we mean by that. Then we write that it's kind of feminine feature. It might, okay. Sorry.
Okay, I would say about the feminine, I don't use the word feminine or masculine because I think that empathy sort of transcends that. Yeah, so thanks. And so I don't even use those terms because I don't think that empathy is feminine or masculine. It's the human trait. And when we start calling it, we create that divide. It really pits, you know, men against, you know, people. I don't want to be feminine. It's like, hey, this is just a human trait that makes your life better. So that's, yeah.
I would say that.
I just want to say that there was, sorry to interrupt you, that was kind of description Caroline gave us about how people perceive it. It's not our point of view, but how she describes how she sees people react to that.
I see.
So the feminine action is not our description, it's rather what people think. Sorry, Bill.
Right, no problem. No, I just think we should just promote it, and I wasn't saying anything because we're in the blocks, but it's an essential skill. It's part of your, it should be part of your daily regimen, like eating healthy and exercising. Yeah, that's not block, but it's but it's an essential skill. And then it appeals to men is that you're adding skills. See, that's the way I always looked. I had strong women and men in my family. And when I was kind of working out my male identity, I just said, wait a minute, if I don't adopt and learn the skills that the women in my family who are really accomplished have done, then I'm not as much a man because I have less skills. I have to really take on the challenge in both areas. And I have to say that I'm better for it. I'm not perfect, but I certainly have a much better life, using both men and women as role models than I would have if it was just a stereotype male role model.
Yeah, just look at the horse. Look at a horse.
Mm-hmm.
It's very quiet, very humble, and very scary, but very, very strong.
Right.
Oh, so it's the empathy is a metaphor. The horse is a metaphor for empathy.
Well, yeah.
Well,
I don't know, are you saying look at the host or look at the horse?
Horse.
Oh, look
horse.
At the
Horse. Right.
Okay.
A horse attitude in a certain way.
Right. No, I talked to a person, this is a side, who uses that in therapy. In other words, they'll put a person who's disturbed near a horse, and the horse will react to that, and then they'll use that as a feedback until both the person and the horse are calmed down.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, Bill, this was just the response. It wasn't that this is a block. It's just that these are blocks. This in it, and then, yeah, and so.
Sure, that's great.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I completely agree, that naturally as human beings, whether you're gender female or male, that we all, innately have empathic capacity, right?
Yes.
In practice, because of how our culture delineates masculine and feminine roles, women then mothers, you're looking after children, you speak with other women, you look after children. Empathy is a natural part of your everyday life. And in my experience in 2 marriages, those male partners, the environment of their masculine everyday workplace, they didn't engage in conversation that involved the content of their feelings. The male culture generally is very different. It's on a banter level. It's changing very quickly, but I could see that actually, what I would take for granted in my everyday emotional expression in an environment with women and children was very, very different to my partner's experience of being in a male environment and the content of that conversation. So all I'm reflecting is that just generally empathy and even expressing emotions and having a sensitivity to your own emotions and that of others isn't as prevalent in male culture generally, right? Obviously.
Right. And that's why we don't live as long as you do.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, it is. It's research that once, like if a man dies, the wife has some sort of social support network. And usually when the woman dies, he doesn't, and men die earlier because of that lack.
Yeah. So this is really important and significant because, we're introducing just that, this is a free space, whether you're male or female, naturally you have all the qualities, whoever you are, and let's start to express and to be heard and to share and to reflect, and to bring, more of an equality into this emotional paradigm of, empathic being and listening and hearing and speaking. Yeah. It's for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it would take a lot of pressure off of men.
Yeah. And a lot of pressure off of women having relationships with men who don't know how to be emotional.
Right.
Because that isolates women into then, you know, like staying with women to feel supported.
What's the opposite of empathy?
Kind of narcissism, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, you know, things like apathy, you know, just not being involved. Or I also see the difference between empathy and authoritarian. So empathy is sort of a power with, sort of an integrative practice, and sort of authoritarian is power over. So you're, you know, just trying to dominate. So those are some of the...
Could it be also the pragmatic?
It is, I think.
I think in reality, the actual emotional quality of the opposite is a narcissist.
Well, this is great. This is great question. What is the opposite of empathy? And let's leave it for a while without answer, because it's apathy. I don't think I have to. This is a great question.
Disconnection, I think, emotional disconnection.
Yeah, well, oh, do you have antipathy?
No, this is the opposite of sympathy, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't want to enhance the opposite. We want to enhance the empathy.
Now we also always have to have our enemies closer than our friends.
Franz, I have a question. How you get this question? How it came to you?
No, I think no, it's yeah. As the last thing I said, you know, it's always, you know, good to have all, you know, the whole view of it, you know, and you know, pragmatism is often a lack of feelings. Well, not always, of course, but well, good question. That is a good question.
I'm thinking that this is...
Yeah.
What?
I'm making a joke. Just saying, just checking in to see which side you're on. The empathy of the narcissist.
Yeah, but narcissism is important. You have to love yourself. That's, you know, a very...
That's different.
Narcissism is like loving yourself to the extension that you don't see yourself in others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like
but
classic Greek.
I'm thinking about kind of lack of sensitivity when I sensitivity or sensitiveness. How you say that?
Sensitivity.
Okay. When Franz asked this question, I immediately show the guy who comes to meeting, says, "Oh, I have to say something because I have to go." And they say what they want to say, and they go. And they leave everybody with what they just said. And this is kind of situation. I always want to say, don't say.
That's a narcissism light.
Yeah.
Like someone just comes in and does a poo and goes, you know.
All right.
I'll leave you with that.
Yeah.
Now she's gonna go. She's gonna leave us with poo and go.
Yeah, coming from a nun. Wow.
No, I'm not anymore. I've had kids. I've been with guys. You know what I mean? It's like that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I had kind of hoped that we could talk some of the other scenarios of implementing, but this is really good to just kind of, it seems like there's sort of a need to explore the experience, to, you know, what is empathy, you know, what is, you know, what's...
Taking a poo and going?
Well,
and leaving.
Edwin's in a kind of fugue state. He's just putting down what he hears.
No,
No editing.
This is just a reflection. What you see here is just a written reflection of what I'm hearing.
All the more reason to use colorful language. You get remembered.
Putting our empathy in praxis.
Well, on this page, there is other, you can add things too. So, this is, topics like grounding before an event and at the beginning of an event. So when we set up the empathy tent, we do an empathy circle, just like a check-in, because everybody's anxious. Like there's a lot of anxiety going into these events. We sit and we share, and it's like, oh, like how are you feeling now? Or what would you like to share? And it's like, oh, I'm feeling pretty anxious. I don't know what's going to happen. So that's one implementation of the empathy circle, is like if you're at an event, before it's sort of starting and ramping up, doing an empathy circle. Yeah, Caroline?
Yeah, actually, I've noticed that XR are publicizing, they're calling it an emotional check-in. They don't use the word empathy.
Right.
So they're calling it
regenerative.
Yeah, so the regenerative aspect of XR here in England. Yeah, so like from London, from the headquarters, they say now they're calling these opportunities, they call it, and there's training that you can go to, it's called emotional check-ins. And so what you just said, Edwin, is that exactly that.
Yeah.
So it could be added to their check-ins, that they could, that's like one place that it could be implemented then too, as part of the emotional check-in. Like, well, you have to use, they're not using active listening, are they, in those check-ins?
There was a training last week and I went to it on time and there was nobody there. Well, actually I was like 10 minutes late and it was supposed to be a 2-hour thing, but there was nobody. So
yeah, we are practicing this. We have been practicing this for several months. In the beginning of the meetings, having a regenerative check-in, which is all about that we are connecting two and two, which they in that way they are expressing gratefulness for the past week. On topics they want to, and they will also share expectations for the meetings with the person they talk to, and that's what we've been practicing in these months before.
Can I reflect that?
And well, no, they don't reflect it, but two and two, then you're quite well connected. But reflecting it would definitely improve the whole experience.
Yeah, I just meant, could I reflect you? So do you mean in your meet split into pairs, two people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but we're trying to do it very often.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Carolina?
I have a question. When you do that in pairs, do you have any kind of recap after that? Or people share in a big circle?
No, well, sometimes we're quite new yet, and there's a lot of new people coming in, and so we're still trying to build a more steady structure. So we decided to have 2 parallel meetings, which divides those who have already been part of XR for a while and the new ones, which is going to be separated and have to go through what we call a DNA course. XR DNA course, which is basically focusing on the values and the principles of XR. So then we're talking about in values and principles. The DNR course is divided into 2 parts, which is 2 hours each, and takes all the history about the NVDA, civil disobedience from Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and etc., etc., and talks about very many topics on values and principles, which XR stands for.
What do you mean by DNR course?
Yeah, DNA. You know, it's just the core of XR, which is the values and principles.
Yeah.
But the abbreviation is from what?
The abbreviation is from the medicine, of course, anatomic.
Mm.
Oh, from
So it's
your
like-
genetic blueprint.
Genetic. Yes, yes, yes.
It's sort of like XR DNA, the core principles, and
Yeah.
Right.
so they do have a lot of trainings. It sounds like they're.
Well, we just started a few weeks ago with this DNA course, which is very well received. And we're just continuing developing it, and it's magical. So my proposition is that the new ones going through, first they do the TED Talk. No, not the TED Talk, but the XR Talk. To the XR Talk, and then when they want to get active, they have to go through the DNA Values and Principle course. And after that, my proposition is that when they starting to get active in the meetings is to insert this empathy circle in the beginning of the meeting. So in that way, will build a culture within based on the DNA course, values and principles. Because as somebody said, culture eats strategy to breakfast. So you have to go into you have to really go in and try to form the culture. And this active listening, this empathy circle definitely will assist very well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Forming
And
the culture. That's what Karolina was saying as well. To form the culture right from the beginning, that it's an empathic structure. The DNA is empathic.
Yeah, and you will in that way you will also manage to filter out those who have a different agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about training for newcomers.
Yeah.
So
we have to really have the common understanding on the values and principles of the regenerative and all the aspects of that.
What is XR TED Talks? What do you mean by that?
The XR Talk? The XR Talk is the talk they had, for example, in Oxford, where they with George Monbiot and a couple of others had heading towards the extinction talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not the XR TED, it's XR Talks.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought you said TED Talk as
Oh,
well.
I thought it was a TED Talk, so XR.
No, I was wrong, and then I corrected myself saying XR Talk. Sorry.
Okay, so not a TED Talk yet.
No.
Can I say?
I just want to keep us on track. I had written an hour and a half for this meeting, but I can go 2 hours. I just want to be sure we don't keep people over. Any 2 hours, another 30 minutes, another 25 minutes? Does that work?
I am enjoying it.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's kind of grounding an event. So it's just kind of bringing up a lot of different.
Can I ask specifically about, because so what I'm writing is beginning of general meetings, okay? So we also split ours into people who've never been and they need to know the principles. They come earlier, and then people who already know and they're part of the core group. Then we're coming together, whatever the focus is. So how to structure this general meeting? So firstly, the grounding. So Edwin, what do you find works very well for the grounding? because people had a resistance to doing 3 breaths because they thought it was religious.
Yeah.
How do you do grounding?
Yeah, that's the part. There's, as people are, it's like each context is different. And that's what I was hoping with the videos, that the videos, if we have some introductory videos in advance, that it will kind of help kind of set the stage. So that's kind of why one of the focuses of, why to have these introductory videos. Because it is hard, in some meetings if people aren't sort of prepared for it. And then if you want to have empathy circles in a bigger meeting, needing kind of facilitators, at least to begin with, to sort of keep people on track. So there's sort of, it's a bit of a snowball, right? We got to kind of build capacity and the mindset and prepare people. So I don't have it depends on the context. So.
Okay, so I was just wanting to kind of know some techniques, maybe Bill, Franz, in your group for grounding, right initially. Do you have like okay, let's just be present, feel our feet on the ground, breathe 3 times, or, have a little singing bowl, or, like what works? What do you do?
Okay, I can't see anybody, so let me know if I'm free to talk.
Go ahead. I'm going to go to the restroom. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So 2 things, and I'm looking at a thing, so it's hard to say. But I actually, I would teach nonviolent crisis de-escalation. So there's a very simple thing, and one of the things we did is a people find. And you a bunch of questions. Who has a birthday this month? Whose favorite color is blue? And things like that. And you come up with about 20 of those. And then people circulate and have to find people who match that, description. So so that's a real easy thing. And then, it's called the people search.
People search.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I never heard of that.
Yeah. And so that's a real easy thing to do. And gets people mixing among each other. And then the other thing that I did, which is, it might be seen as a bit, but it's a movement, and I can't show you right here, but it's not religious. It was developed by a Tai Chi master who's also a member of the Boston Ballet, Al Huang, A-L, and his second name is Huang, and he wrote a book. I forgot the name of it. But he has a real good kind of moving meditation that is not religious. You can contact me and I can actually demonstrate it for you. It only takes about a minute, but it might be seen as woo-woo to some people.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Because, Master Tai Nhat Hanh does a walking meditation as well, which is very useful.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah.
The thing is, what we want to achieve for the first few minutes, I think that sort of socializing is a good idea because it makes people connected, kind of. But I love this habit we have in another group of people I was meeting every week or every 2 weeks. We have this habit. We still have it because we meet more rarely, but we still meet, and we start our meetings from 3 minutes of silence. And this is the time for everybody for maybe meditating, maybe just breathing, maybe just thinking whom I want to be today, like what kind of person I want to be during this meeting. It's a moment when we live the whole everyday this kind of how we call it, I've forgotten the word. I mean, when we are in a hurry all the time. Yeah, and we stop it and we kind of prepare ourselves to the meeting.
Yeah.
I love it.
In our group, the first meeting was very balanced, and they presented the science, and then they had 3 little pauses of silence and for integration, and it worked really well. And I fed back to them how balanced that meeting was. But they got feedback from other people to say, yeah, it was fine, but don't do those weird pauses, because that just made it like church. And you just think, that's just being quiet, you know? Why does that have to be something weird?
People have problem with not talking. They think they don't exist when they don't talk.
I know, and like not having stimulation, it's like exactly what can you try to cope with just quiet. Yeah, it feels like it's actually quite a responsibility to really reinforce a structure, you know, to implement a structure and say, actually, look, it's not weird to breathe. It's not weird to just quietly be still. That's not a weird thing. Like, you know, that's got to be part of the regeneration of what it is to be human being. You know, that just makes it, that's the baseline, isn't it?
Yeah, in terms of that structure, sometimes I feel like, well, here's the structure of the empathy circle, and there is a structure, right? There is some kind of rules, and it's like trying to implement that. I feel like I don't know, it feels difficult, it feels rigid somehow. So it's that, I don't know, that's just when you mentioned structure, that's what came up.
Yeah, and I think it actually, because a lot of people innately within their own brains, they don't know the difference between like emptiness and form, structure and freedom. You know, they don't actually have an experience of that because they're just out of themselves, you know, and displaced and fragmented. And it's like, actually, come on, get a sense of this, you know, and try to relax with this. Try to relax with understanding when there's structure and when there isn't, and how do you feel with that? And it's quite an introduction, actually.
For
like,
me,
how are you going to do an action if you're not actually present as a human?
For me, I'm sorry. May I?
Go. Yeah, sure.
For me, in this 3 minutes of silence, it's very important to put the question, what kind of person I want to be during this meeting, especially when there is a rising tension or conflicts in a group. So asking ourselves this question kind of teaches us to be more aware of what I'm doing, how I behave. It makes me more careful and taking care about others.
Yeah.
It's a very important question. What kind of person or what type of person I want to be during this meeting?
Okay.
Do we stick talking? Are we still talking about implementation of empathy circle?
Yeah, I could go read through some here just to give an overview. So this is to be listeners. So one thing with the empathy circles is it, as a practice, it helps to become a better listener. So with the empathy tent, we set up the empathy tent, and we listen to people that come by. So, you know, just on one-to-one, someone can come and sit down. So I guess I was saying just here was to be better listeners, listen to each other. Well, that's a little bit different. That's to listen to each other better. You know, when everybody kind of wants to be heard, you feel like you're not heard, it builds up a lot of tension. So if we can listen to each other, it kind of reduces tension. So and then also at meetings, there are meetings, there can be So at a meeting, like I went to the XR meeting, there could be people designated as listeners that I'm here just to listen to you, and you can go up and listen to them. So I just kind of brainstormed a bunch of things. It can be, yeah, Karolina?
I have this problem I witness and lately a lot. that when people are in a mode of action, they are not in a mode of talking and listening to each other. And because activists are more or less all the time in action, in this mode of action, they have problem with listening and hearing each other. And that's how conflicts raise. Yeah, friends.
Are you talking about NVDA actions?
I'm talking about any sort of action. When we prepare something, we are so focused on organizing and acting and to figure out what to do, and it's kind of mode of for action.
Okay, talking about the everyday life.
And no, it's about our XR actions, but you know, it doesn't have to be NVDA. It might be leafleting or kind of, you know, lecture for public or anything, you know. It doesn't
Okay.
have to be NVDA.
So you're not, so what I understand is that you may not practice the briefing and the debriefing before around the actions. Because we know, for example, we are using the briefing in the beginning before the action, for the activities. You always use the briefing. And then afterwards we meet, and then we have a moment with the debriefing. We take everything that has happened within and relax and may do some meditation and be together. Yeah.
No, that's not what I meant.
No. Sorry.
It's probably cultural thing. It probably happens different way in Poland than, for example, in Norway. I'm curious. I want to ask you in second the question about it, but I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah.
People are in kind of excitement mode. They are focused on action. And obviously we talk to each other when we organize something, but it's kind of action talking.
Adrenaline.
Well, what?
Adrenaline.
Yeah, adrenaline, but it's kind of different. We are not focused on slowing down, having time to each other to find the right words to express what I mean, and to wait as the other person will be ready to respond to that. There is no such thing. People talking through each other, and they are so in hurry that there is no space. I would say there is no space for thinking.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. And we have briefing and debriefing. Actually, not always. That's what I'm concerned of. But it is the problem that when we prepare to some action, for example, yesterday I had a funeral of the future's funeral in my city. It was, you know, for us a big thing to do. It was actually first action of XR in our city. So everybody was on board and we all trying to figure out how to do that, how to do the best. And actually we already have a conflict. During organizing this event, we had a huge, enormous conflict, and we have to deal with it now. And so I believe it happened because nobody was in this mode of calming down, focusing on each other, and starting listening to each other and expressing ourselves in right way. Okay.
Have you?
I think Bill also wanted to say something.
Yes.
Sure, but I can wait.
Okay.
Franz and Caroline, and then I'll go.
No, we're related to what you said, Karolina. And but have everyone or those central in XR Poland where you are aware of the XR organizational document, the self-organizing system?
Yeah.
Should you translate it in Polish or?
Well, no, it's still in English, but yeah, we know it.
Yeah, because that there, it's very clear about how to, you have moderate facilitators, and it's very well organized in a certain way. So yeah, so people really have to respect. And Poland, I mean, you're number one in discipline, aren't you?
What do you mean?
No, it's I mean, what I mean is the Eastern countries are more disciplined than most of the Western Europe.
We are more disciplined?
Yeah.
No. We are very chaotic.
No.
We are even worse than Italians. Am I right?
I have no idea.
You need a lot to get worse than Italians, that's for sure. Nobody beats us there. But no, you're very very talented. Into your task, you're very good. I think. Yeah. Well.
Okay, Bill, did you have something here?
Caroline wanted something.
Oh,
yeah, Caroline.
Maybe somebody else should
Okay, Bill.
facilitate here. Okay, Caroline. Yeah.
So what Karolina is saying absolutely is what I see also. And this is what's really motivating me to underpin the XR meetings with regenerative understanding of the importance that we maintain a calm, connected, presence where we're not, because there is a difference to people who are aware a little bit of these practices, but then you're exactly right. As soon as there's an action, all the focus is on the action. And we really need to remind, and it's practicing often enough so that people carry the practices with them when they go into the action. Because I see exactly the same thing. Like, I come from a very disciplined background. So for me, it's my everyday all the time. There's no separation. Obviously, when you're then in a new, there's action, there's police, you might get arrested. It's a bit different, it's like the volume goes up, yeah? But we have to maintain that grounded in the practice. I'm still present, I'm still calm. I'm de-escalating my own emotions so that I can de-escalate around me and maintain, maintain a connection with other people, because what you say is true. People, it's like the primal brain goes into fight or flight, and it can be that people just turn inwards and they think, I'm just here by myself. And it's like because we're not even used to this kind of action yet as a collective. It's very new. People haven't been protesting. I mean, yeah, certain groups, there's been protests, but just for it to be a general thing where you're not a minority, in some way, for it to be this affects everybody, right? And so just generally, everybody now understands, oh, I can protest. I can go and make an action and use my voice and say, no, I don't want this. Especially with young people, they really get it, they're protesting about everything now, which is great, because it needs to happen. But we do need that integration. And for people like us who are very connected and resonating with the regenerative practices of empathy to self and others, we have to keep a focus on that, because it keeps everybody safe, actually, to remember, let me carry this with me, when the situation is different, when I'm out there. Let me remember that we have a collective intention as to how we represent Extinction Rebellion, as to how we represent our love for the earth. It's like maintaining that consciousness.
Can I just reflect what I was hearing? So what I was hearing, Karolina, is that in the groups that you've been to, there's sort of an energy that comes up, that's sort of a tense energy, and people aren't really, able to sort of get grounded or into an empathic mode. They kind of just want to go take action, and it ends up with people talking over each other, and it's sort of a feeling of tension. Maybe people feel sort of alienated from each other, and that what I'm hearing from Caroline is the importance of creating an empathic, calm, connected feeling, sort of feeling grounded, integrated, and safe. So how to create that environment, and that also that conflict happens out of the other approach from that, so that alienated, tense kind of quality. So I don't know if that sort of captures it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a big shift, because we're moving out of, you know, that mode that humans have had on the planet of like, right, you know, now we're hunting the buffalo, we're hunting the mammoth, and everybody, I don't know, maybe they did work in their collective groups very skillfully with each other, but I think there's been a lot of time where people actually have just been operating from a place which is, you know, just for myself. And so then to bring in the idea of actually we can be safe, connected with each other, whilst also maintaining the strength of getting our message across. You know, it's quite a fine balance, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, and we can only do that as individuals to the degree to which we feel confident, you know, to express our genuine views. And for some people, you know, who've been very repressed, they need to feel quite extreme that they're going to get their voice heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it is a big shift. And what I was hearing from Franz is that in Norway, there is a lot of these practices for that grounding already incorporated into the trainings. And it's kind of different cultures have different approaches to this.
I would like to hear Bill.
Yeah, Bill. Oh, Bill?
Yeah. Bill wanted to say something.
Thanks.
Yeah. First of all, again, for over 25 years, I taught crisis de-escalation in very tense situations. I want to, first of all, reinforce what everybody's saying about building that culture and those assumptions. I think that's excellent. That's excellent. Even though it may be difficult and a few things like that, that's excellent preparatory work. What you're talking about in the heat of the action is what we call, or I defined as, the escalation continuum. And that means that when people are in stressful situations, their receptive and their expressive language goes through changes. You know, just a simple thing. Think about when you're cut off on the highway or somebody does something rude. You don't immediately go to Shakespeare. Usually you go to the one finger salute in America or something else like that. And so that sort of thing, including how to stand to protect yourself, how to show through motion that you're not a threat to somebody, things like that, might be helpful, you know, as further trainings for any one of your groups. And I would have, you know, not here, but I would be happy to talk about that, you know, and getting a little bit more granular about that. But one of the main point is that as situations change, people's abilities change. And and where the conflict comes is, oh, I thought you were, Extension Rebellion, and that means this, whereas this person maybe was hit over the head or called a name that triggers something back in their childhood, and they've lost that perspective. And so it's up to you as sort of like a facilitator there to kind of get that and, you know, help them reintegrate with the group. That's what I have to say.
Oh, okay. Caroline, you just probably last, if I need to close pretty soon. Yeah, Caroline, you want to? Oh, did you have your hand held up?
I was agreeing with Bill, and I think I have to ask him for a few things, but not now. Okay.
So, well, yeah. So it's basically the crisis work and de-escalating, which is kind of what we're trying to do with, I think, the empathy and the empathy circles. You know, is core to this sort of culture. So I think we're coming to a close here, but next week we could maybe continue, you know, going down this list, just sort of harvesting, gathering ideas, like how empathy circles can be implemented. Plus, it seems like we're sort of setting a bigger picture too, you know, kind of exploring kind of the deeper, you know, aspects of how to do that. So, and then so that we could continue with that next week if that works for everyone. And then the week after, you know, we'll have an actual empathy circle to bring in XR members to sort of model the dialogue, and then we can post that to show the XR community, you know, the practice. So so maybe we should just do a wrap up. Just any kind of final kind of comments or thoughts before we close? Just want to keep it.
That's a good go ahead, Franz.
Now, are you all on Mattermost, the international platform?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
So there's a regenerative group that gathers, you know, many countries. It's, you know, a global. It's global way of XR in a, you know, encrypted platform, which could be good also to trying to mobilize XR to join these talks.
To kind of promote it there, kind of just give a link to them? Or,
you know, trying to connect the regenerative culture in XR within, you know, start to mobilize within there.
Mm-hmm.
What's that platform called, Franz?
Mattermost.
Mattermost. I don't know.
So you have your tech.
I am there now, but I don't. Oh, yeah, there is regenerative culture and new. Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah, so you have to have you know, you have to connect with those who had the admin role and mandate in your XR country to give you access.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So once we create the event for the XR Empathy Cafe, that you could promote it there, you could post there and make comments, and invite.
Yeah, you can post and comment and engage, mobilize there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
okay.
If I do send this one, the link, here's this one.
This has been just so interesting and enriching. So thank you to everyone for your input. It's great.
Yes.
Thanks.
I just want to say I agree. I'm really, and thank you for people whose language is not English.
Yeah.
And for sharing, because I'm exposed to things that I wouldn't be otherwise, and it's because I don't know the language. It's not your fault. I just want to say that I'm constantly appreciative of that. I want to give a shout out to my shirt. I got this in 1985. I own the only Kurt Vonnegut T-shirt, I think, in the world that's left. And what it says is, we could have saved the world, but we were too damn cheap. And that was in 1985. He wrote Slaughterhouse-Five, and actually his last novel was Galapagos, about human beings adapted to be seals and living in the Galapagos because the whole world is covered with water. So just a shout out to that and to XR. So thank you all.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? And
Well, to be honest, I feel a little bit lost today because I thought that we are talking about implementation and Empathy Circle from the very beginning after your introduction, but then you kind of, okay, now let's talk. And I was kind of lost because I felt like we all the time were talking about it from the very beginning.
that we were talking about implementation.
Well, when we were talking even about our meeting to teach, to show other XR members of how Empathy Circle works, it was also for me about
Yeah. I guess I was looking at more having some headings, you know, specific categories for the implementation, then kind of fleshing that out so that, I mean, it is all, it is all building sort of towards implementation.
I see the file sent by Franz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just I just uploaded the last book of XR that is launched in late June in PDF.
Okay. Okay.
We're saving the forest by, not printing too many books. Yes. Really, thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful session, getting to know you all, and looking forward to next time.
Okay, then see you then. And I'm going to keep working on that video to get that out to XR by this weekend. So thanks for comments on that.
Nice job.